Okay, this is notes 3-4. So this one is building on our lesson from 3.3, except we're going to be applying everything we learned from the previous lesson. So you're actually getting to see how this would be used in the business world. Okay, first off, we have Super Bats Incorporated. They manufacture two different kinds of wooden bats, the wall banger and the ding bat. So we're just going to keep them in that same order. We're going to let X be our wall banger. And we're going to let Y be our dingbats. Okay, now we're going to write an inequality to represent each constraint. Okay, now the constraints, remember, are what make a problem true. Okay, so they give it restrictions. Okay, for the first one, the wall banger takes 8 hours to trim and turn on the lathe, and dingbats take 5 hours to trim and turn on the lathe. So basically what that is, a lathe is what you put wood on, and it spins and it cuts something to the shape you want it. So it's 8 hours for every wall banger bat, which is our X's, plus 5 hours for every dingbat, which is our Y's. And it's together, the total time for trimming and lathing is no more than 80 hours. So that would be less than or equal to 80. Now, in order for me to graph that equation, then I need an X and a Y intercept. I could put it in Y equals form, do my slope, Y intercept, but that's just that would be just too much work on the front end. So it's easier just to find X and Y intercepts, because simply put, all we have to do for these is put a 0 in and solve for the other. So for an X-intercept, that means my Y is 0. If I plug 0 in for Y, that's 5 times 0, which is 0, which leaves me 8x equals 80. Then I solve for x, so I divide by 8, and that leaves me 10. Same deal. On the Y-intercept, I'd plug 0 in for x. So 8 times 0 is 0, which leaves me 5y is equal to 80. Divide by 5, and that leaves me a total of 16 for my y. Okay? Now the second constraint, the wall banger takes 2 hours to finish. So 2 hours times every wall banger, plus the dingbat takes 5 hours to finish. That's 5 times every dingbat. Is going to be a total finishing time of no more than 50 hours, so less than or equal to 50. Okay, same thing. I want to find an X and a Y intercept so I can graph it. So for an X intercept, plug in 0 in for Y. So 5 times 0 is 0. So it leaves me 2x equals 50. Divide by 2, x equals 25. Okay, that's a 5. All right, next one. Put in 0 for x, and I'm solving for y. So 0 for x, 2 times 0 is 0. Leaves me 5y equals 50, so I divide by 5, and that leaves me 10. Now I'm looking at my x's, and the highest x value I have is 25. The highest y value I have of all 4 of these is 16. So looking at my graph, I could count by ones, possibly. I think actually I could not, because it goes up to 20. So I'm going to go ahead and count by 2s so that I can get everything on my graph. So I'm going to shift my graph up a little bit so that I can write on it. Zoom in just a little bit. All right, now we always label our axis, and our x-axis is my wall bangers, because my wall bangers were my x's. And my y was my dingbats. Okay, now if I'm counting by 2 on this one, the first one being 2, and I would go 4, 6, 8, 10, so on and so forth. So 2, 4, 6, 8. Here's where 10 would be. 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 would be right there. 22, 24, 26. And I know I don't need to go any more than that because I know it's over. The first over will be 25. Okay? And then the highest is 16. So there's my 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 would be right here. 12, 14, 16 would be right here. Okay, now looking at my first set of coordinates. My first set of coordinates is over 10, up 0. So I would put a point. Okay, then over 0, up 16, put a point. Okay, because it is equal to, it is a solid line. Connecting, and it's less than, so that means I would be shading down. So anything up above that line is no good. Now the second coordinates, I have 25, 0. So I'm going to go over 25, up 0. Okay, and now we go over 0, up 10 for our next point. Okay. And we're going to graph those two, straight line again. Okay, this one says less than as well. Now, realize that on this first one, okay, it had to be under it, so it could not be over it any at all. So that means this area is no good, even though this one is less than this line. So it's less than this line and less than this line. Okay, so that creates 4 corners. One here, one here, one here, and then my intersection, which is there. Okay, the coordinates are, for this first one, is 0, 0. This one is 10, 0. Over here we have over 0, up 10. And then finally we've got to find that intersection. So flipping the page, I'm going to go ahead and label it 5, 8 so that I have all 4 corners labeled on my corners I have so far are 0, 0, 10, 0, and 0, 10. We have to find the intersection. Now, the easiest way to find the intersection is to put it into y equals and to solve it, okay? Solve for y equals, graph them, find the intersection. So we go, the first equation we had was 8x plus 5y. And even though it said less than or equal to 80, I'm going to go ahead and just put equals 80 because we're going to be putting it in a calculator. Okay, just to put it in y equals, I have to move the x across. So 5y equals, the 8x crosses, changes signs. It's now a negative 8x plus the 80 that was waiting on me. Now, last thing, I don't want 5y equals, I want y equals, so I divide by 5. And that is y equals form. I can leave it like that when I'm putting in a calculator. Yeah, I don't have to reduce even the 80 over 5. I don't have to reduce that to 16. My calculator knows how to do it. Now I put in my second equation, which was 2x plus 5y equals 50. Move the x across. 5y equals negative 2x plus 50. Now, to finish it off, divide by 5. And y is equal to negative 2/5 x plus 50 over 5. And I know 50 over 5 is 10. You can change it to 10 if you want, or you can just put it in your calculator just like that. So I would put them in my calculator into y equals, graph them, second trace to do the intersection, make sure that the intersection is visible on my window, hit enter, 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 and it would tell me my intersection, and that point for my intersection is 5, 8. So I'm going to go back to my graph, and they're all listed here. Now the next thing is finding those profits. The profit of wall bangers is $17 per bat, and the profit of dingbat is $29 each bat. So the wall bangers were my X's, so that's $17 per bat for those kinds of bats, plus $29 per bat for the dingbats, for those kinds of bats. Now, how many of each type of bat should be produced to reach or have a maximum profit? And what is that maximum profit? This is what we did the day before, where we built a little table, a little T-chart. Corner. And we list our corners. And our equation is 17x plus 29y equals my profit. The corners, we already have them up top there. Corners are 0, 0, 10, 0, 0, 10, and 5, 8. Plug them into our equation, each one individually. So the first set, the 0, 0, that's 17 times my x, which is 0, plus 29 times my y, which is 0, equals 0. Next one, 17 times x, which is 10, plus 29 times 0, equals, 29 times 0 is 0, so it's gone. 17 times 10 is 170. 17 times my new x, which is 0, plus 29 times my y, which is 10. 17 times 0 is 0. 29 times 10 is 290. And our final one, 17 times 5 plus 29 times 8. That comes out to a total of 317. So I can clearly see that my maximum profit is 317. So max profit is $317. And that occurred when I sold 5 of the wall bangers. My x's, because my x is 5. And 8 dingbats. Okay. Moving on to the next one. All right, so Miss Fernandez Cookie Factory makes different size packages of cookies that contain a combination of chocolate chip and peanut butter cookies. So we're going to let X equal my chocolate chip. And Y is my peanut butter. Okay. So Ms. Fernandez places at least 3 of each type of cookie in each combination package. So for my chocolate chip, she puts at least 3, so that is greater than or equal to 3. And she puts at least 3 peanut butter, so that's greater than or equal to 3 of those guys. Okay, the largest package contains, and I'm going to go ahead and add this in, at most 13 cookies. So So that means all my chocolate chip plus all my peanut butter is going to be less than or equal to 13. Okay, when I go to graph those, I'm going to graph the first two first. X is greater than or equal to 3, so I go to 3 on my x-axis, and that is going to be a vertical line. All x's are vertical lines. So let's go ahead and label while we're here. My x's were my chocolate chip. Okay. My y's are my peanut butter. Okay. Says y is, oh, by the way, that said x is greater than 3, so that means that direction. So that means everything on this side is no good. Okay? Now, y is going to be greater than or equal to 3, so that is a horizontal line going through y, and greater than is shaded up. So that means everything down here is now no good. And finally, we have to graph the last equation, so I'm going to have to do an x and a y intercept. So I plug for an x-intercept, plug 0 in for y. When I put 0 in for y, that leaves me x equals 13. If I plug 0 in for x, that leaves me y equals 13. Okay, I can graph those. I'm going to count by ones. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 0. And then up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So over 0, up 13. And again, connecting with a solid line because it's equal to as well. And I can do better than that. Let's see. Thought I could. There we go. Close enough. All right. So now it is going to be less than that one. So anything less, well, we know it can't be over here and it can't be down here, but here is good. So I have this triangle that has all 3 in it. So my corners are nice corners made up by that triangle. I got 3 corners. And they are over 3, up 10, over 10, up 3, and the final one is over 3, up 3. Okay, moving on. So my corners were 3, 3, 10, 3, and 3, 10. Profit for the chocolate chip cookies is 25 cents. Profit for peanut butter cookies is 26 cents. So that is 20.25 for my X, my chocolate chips, plus 0.26 for my Y, my peanut butter. How many of each type of cookies should be produced to have a maximum profit? What is that maximum profit? So we got to make our table. Corner. And our profit equation, 0.25x plus 0.26y equals P, my profit. All right, my corners again were 3, 3, 10, 3, and 3, 10. When I plug those in, that's 0.25 times x, which is 3, plus 0.26 times 3, equals, after I type that into my calculator, I come out with $1.53. On my second one, 0.25 times my new x, which is 10, plus 0.26 times my new y, which is 3, equals, on this particular one, that would come out to $3.28. Finally, 0.25 times my new x, which is 3, plus 0.26 times my new y, which is 10, equals $3.35. Okay, so my maximum profit is $3.35. So max profit and that occurred when I sold 3 chocolate chip and 10 peanut butter. Okay, that would conclude the notes for 3-4. The assignment for this one will be assignment 3-4, so A 3-4, number 1. On that number 1, my recommendation is for you on your X and Y axis to count by 5s. So each one of those will be 5, kind of like we did on this last one, we did by 2s. I would do this one by 5s because it's going to be larger numbers and it'll keep it a lot cleaner and it'll keep everyone uniform on their answer. All right, that concludes notes for 3-4.